Welcome to After the Show, your weekly movie podcast brought to you by A. Scully and Sid Talk. We're addicted to movies. Are you? Hello, welcome to After the Show. Hello, Sid Talk. How are you?
Blast off. I'm good. But they won't know what blast off means. We do a little countdown for the audio. It's just funny. I'm funny.
So, Sid Talk, this is After the Show movie podcast. And what were we doing before the podcast?
Watching a movie. Is that right? Is that the answer?
That's true. We were watching a movie.
Correct.
Yes.
I win what?
You win. You get to watch another movie next week.
Fantastic.
There you go.
We weren't really doing anything before we were talking.
We were talking, drinking tea,
Correct.
Getting ready to speak to the people.
Correct.
Also, I want to say congratulations to the King of England today for his coronation. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. So the before the after the show discussion did not include the coronation.
It didn't, but I just thought of Charlie with his hat on.
Right.
I just saw him on a webpage.
Is it disrespectful to call him Charlie?
No, Charlie. He's to his friends. I'm one of his friends.
Are you? All right, then.
Yeah. So congratulations to you, Charlie. All right. I'm like Ron Burgundy. I don't have my show notes. I don't know what the hell's going on. Now I'm back on track. All right. It's Saturday, May the 6th. This is After the Show. We're a movie review podcast. This is episode 786. The movie we're looking at this week is Scream 6 or Scream V1 if you use Roman numerals, but I refuse. It's 2023 release. Actually releases on Blu-ray on July the 11th. What a great birthday present for me. That is a long time away. Why are we reviewing this now, Sid Talk?
That is a long way away. That's very weird.
Yeah, that's when the Blu-ray comes out. So
interesting.
Yeah, so it's rated R. It's from our friends at Paramount. We watched the streaming version. They sent us a copy for review. Sid Talk, give us the synopsis of the movie Scream 6.
You can't see me, but I'm shaking my head. It's Scream 6.
Do you want me to give you the one off the box?
Sure.
In the next installment, the survivors of the Ghostface killings, spoilers, leave Woodsboro behind and start a fresh chapter in New York City.
Do they, though?
It's not really a fresh chapter, is it?
No.
It's the next chapter. All right, Scream 6. We saw Scream 5 when it came out. We reviewed it here on After the Show. You can go back and listen to that. I think we both kind of liked it. So Scream 6, what did you think, Sid Talk?
It's all right. I mean, it's Scream, and I get it. You and I are both horror movie fans.
Yes.
Slasher movie fans to some degree. We're not fanatics like the fanatics that are portrayed in these movies, but we were raised on, or raised ourselves on. Like, we were weaned from, like, me, Captain Kangaroo, and you, whatever children's television you had in England, straight from that to, like, The Exorcist and Halloween. And, well, I never even watched Evil Dead till I was a grown up, so I had Friday the 13th and stuff like that going on when I was a kid. So slasher movies have a place in my heart, and then when the original Scream came around, it was like kind of folding in the culture of that. Dig it. And now it's like eating itself. That's the way I describe it. That, and maybe that's the point. Maybe it's like supposed to be almost, it's a parody of a parody of a parody, where now we're at the point where we're taking a character who was sort of a tertiary character who tried to make a big deal about, okay, so the point of these movies is there was a murder back in the day, like a long time ago. And then later, more murderers tried to mimic that. Then they make a movie about that happening in that small town. And then they make a sequel to the movie, but someone outside of the movie wants to do the murders better than the movie. So that was the last one. And now we have taking that character, who's really nothing to do with the whole of the Scream story or the original people, and making his sociopathic family getting revenge. It's like...
Did you just spoil this movie?
Well, we're spoiling.
I think you just spoiled it.
That's right. You can blank me out. You can blur out. How can you blur sound? Just beep, 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 beep. You have to know when you're listening to a review of a movie, just assume there's going to be spoilers. And also, it's Scream. What's the spoiler?
Well,
there's psychotic killers and somebody's going to be a victim, and it's a slasher movie.
Let me say what I thought about this. I thought that the last movie was actually pretty good and an interesting take on it. And I didn't, there was a lot of surprises. It was brutal. Now, I'll give you a word that I would describe this one as. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Exhausting.
Oh, that is a good word.
This movie goes to very great lengths to keep red herring. Is it called a red herring? When they try and say, oh, clearly there's a killer here, right? And
correct.
Part of the fun of it is trying to guess who the killer is. But this movie goes so far out of its way to keep throwing you, hey, it might be this person. Oh, it might be that person. And even when it gets to unraveling itself, it's still like, hey, it's that person. No, it's not. It's that person. It's that. I was like, my head was spinning. And some people who they unveiled, I was like, okay.
What? Yeah, what?
Okay. That's not even that surprising.
Or interesting.
Am I not in on something? Have I not seen everything? It just felt exhausting to me. And I was like, could you stop doing the, hey, what if it's her? But no, it's not her because you've just seen her with this person. It gets a bit much.
I gotcha.
So by the end of it, I'd completely had enough of it. I was like, can we just get to the point of who it is? Okay, now they've told us who it is. I hate who it is. Like, it sucks. Like, it's rubbish. And then it was like,
it's uninteresting. That's the best word I can think of. It's uninteresting. It is not telling an interesting story. It isn't anything, because even the last bad guy, the last villain, wasn't that interesting. It was just that we happen to like Jack Quaid.
Yeah, well...
And the premise of overzealous fans don't like the way the franchise is going, so they're going to corrupt the whole story by doing their own murders, right? So that's...
I semi-liked that idea.
I mean, it's not super compelling because it's super boring in the world when people are that kind of fans, but I understood how they're taking pop culture entangled with movies and we're wrapping it together. This is just could have been the last 10 minutes of that.
Yeah, it could have been an epilogue. What I mean? You're right.
Yeah, blah, blah, blah. And then, to do with that guy who did the thing with us. And
family. When it does say in the synopsis, a new chapter in New York City. Now, that filled me with a little bit of excitement. I was like, a different location. The city's obviously a harder place to hide in. It's probably going to be very different, but they don't really do anything with it.
No.
Because it all ends up in this old movie theater, the whole climax. And the rest of it, they're either in their apartment or there's one scene where they go to a convenience store.
And in a movie theater where we have set up an homage museum to all of these murders throughout the whole of the whole thing, right? And to the movies and to the whole of the story of Scream and all the murders. Well, go back a couple of movies and it was a movie set where they had the house from the original inside the movie set, and that's where it took place. So It's like the same thing.
It's a callback, is it?
I think so.
Or is it not? And then they just got that accidentally. It's...
And it's very elaborate, that whole situation. I'm not saying any of it is plausible. Don't get me wrong. I'm not it used to be realistic until now, but the idea that someone has spent, 20 years when he was only about 25 years old, collecting all the evidence and procuring every bloody t-shirt and all the stuff. I was like, what?
That whole area there inside the theater, I thought it was I've seen this a million times in other movies, an homage.
Well, it reminded me of the basement in Dexter.
Oh, yeah.
Of the guy who had all the,
trophies, basically. Yeah.
And there was another one, what we watched recently. Was it The Last of Us? Didn't somebody have some other thing has a hallway of death, basically, is what we're talking about. And that's what it reminds me of, is this psycho serial killer trophy collection.
And it gives them an excuse to film the entire finale on a soundstage, basically. We don't need to be in New York City anymore.
True.
We're just inside a building. Saying that it takes place in New York City seemed exciting. It wasn't. There wasn't even a car chase, a foot chase, anything that could have been exciting or, dramatic. Nothing.
Correct.
Mostly people getting attacked inside apartments or inside this theater. And the whole gimmick of who's the person who did it, it kind of wore off pretty quick. Whereas in the last one, it didn't. It was surprising, the last one. At the end of it, I was like, holy shit, I didn't see that part coming.
Mm.
But this one, when I asked you early on, do you kind of know what's going on? I didn't, because I'm like, I don't see how you can. They're just throwing too many people at you who it could be. It's like one of those things.
Mm.
And then when it got down to it and they revealed it, I was like, it's the most stupidest thing.
I don't think it's stupid. I think it's just boring. It's not stupid at all.
I mean, it's not even.
If you take elements
thin
from all the movies and then you try to piece together a continuation, I understand where you would thread that together. So I don't think it's stupid or anything. I just feel like if there were ideas on a board and you were all throwing them out there, like, oh, let's have it be Richie's family, you'd be like, dude, that's boring. That's uninteresting. Let's move on to the next.
That would be the first thing I'd say. We can't do that because we did him last time. We need to do something new. We need to bring something else in. What's another thread from somewhere that we can bring in? Okay, we're bringing Hayden Panettiere back. She's coming back as Kirby.
It didn't matter to me because I didn't remember her.
I'm just saying, when we're looking at this board, so we would go, we're bringing her back. So is there something in her story or something that we could do something with? But no, they just do this, which is, they even do it, don't they? Oh, you're the family of Richie. They literally say it. So just in case you weren't paying attention and you don't know what's going on, they say it to you. If you hadn't seen the other one, this one would be nonsensical, I think. Because there were times where I was going, hold on, do I not remember something right?
Right.
And I've seen the other one.
They're counting on this franchise as they in the storytelling of inside the storytelling and the exposition inside the exposition. This is a franchise, and here are the rules of a franchise. So a franchise means everyone who's watching the sixth one has obsessively watched 1 through 5. So it doesn't matter if they don't care about a new viewer, right? They're not bringing you on board at number 6 and hoping you'll go back and watch the rest.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, they're just counting on you knowing everything. So if something's left out or not clear, you're supposed to just know it.
Yeah, and I'm not a Scream aficionado, so I know the basics.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, me and you, earlier, we were on Wikipedia looking at, who is the Loomis guy? Who is this guy? We were Wikipediaing because we were not 100% clear on everything. So
if I can't remember if I've seen them all, that's not a great sign.
No. But there are elements of it I do like. It's a lot of stabbing. Every kill's a stabbing, isn't it? There's nothing...
there's a couple of shooting.
Yeah, but nothing, like some movies, you like the
creative
kills, as you would call it in horror, yeah, and you're like, wow, I've never seen a pane of glass fall off a building and chop a guy in half, that kind of thing.
But you'd have to think of a meeting where they're talking about this guy Richie and how he was obsessed with the movies and he didn't like the movies. What were the name of the movies inside the movie? Stab.
Yeah.
So Stab has to be kind of the hallmark of the Richie character as Scarface. What's his name?
Ghostface.
Ghostface.
I mean, it's right there when you look at it. It's a ghost.
It's true. True.
It's all stabbing or shooting.
That was very uninteresting as well.
Uninteresting. Yeah. After the first one, you're like, okay. I mean, they really go for it. Let's say in the opening sequence with Samara Weaving's character.
Mm-hmm.
They don't just stab and walk away. They stab. Sometimes it's bordering on are you doing too many stabs?
It's like they did some research on murderers who were doing the murder as an up close and personal revenge attack, right? So they've gone through all kinds of real murders of stabbings. And statistically speaking, if it's like a revenge murder or a crime of passion, right? They are very stabby. So in this one, because we have the revenge element, I just feel like they tried to put that in there because it is very consistent.
Yeah. And they also retread the character where she's talking about franchise and how this person has to be the killer or doesn't have to be the killer. They did that whole speech in the last movie. They've just updated it a little bit and turned it.
They do that speech in every movie.
Right. But they did it. Yeah, true. Yeah. But the same lady did it in these 2 movies.
Right. But that speech is literally the same in every, that's part of the thing is that you have this super geeky person who now lays out for you the rules of the horror genre or the genre we're going into. And she just does it again.
But don't listen to what she's saying because some of that's a red herring also.
I think that if you're intelligent, you will know that.
I was literally worn out. And there was one moment, maybe 2, where I was like, this is like Scooby-Doo.
Oh,
You know, in Scooby-Doo, at the end of every Scooby-Doo, where they pull off a thing and go, oh, I would have got away with it. It
yes.
felt like that.
You're right.
There was one particular moment where I was like, this is hardcore R-rated Scooby-Doo. And that's what's happening right now. So if you like Scooby-Doo, or the vibe of Scooby-Doo, but with lots more stabbing, this might be for you. There's less Scooby snacks and more stabbing.
There's definitely more stabbing.
So let's get on to the cast here. Courtney Cox returns as Gail Weathers, a weather lady called Gail Weathers. Very funny. What do you think of Courtney?
She's fine. I mean, I understand why we have her because she's a legacy. She's from the original.
It's like having Luke in Star Wars, right?
Oh, you're comparing Gail Weathers to Luke Skywalker.
Well, they both got sky and weather.
Right.
They're all weather related.
I'm not following you. But I don't understand, like, when you zoom out. And again, when I'm focusing on the meetings of the writers for these stories, it tells me a lot that it's not a creative endeavor. It's a packaged product, right? And so we have to have Gail because we might think that we're going to kill Gail because, another spoiler, we've already killed Dewey, who she loved, right? So she's the dangler, and it didn't add anything. She didn't have any sort of like dun-da-da moment or anything like she did in the other one. And so I don't know. I'm neutral on Courtney Cox. She's fine. As far as bringing that character back, it was just a dangling little shiny object. Yeah,
I'm neutral on her also, even though clearly she's important in the Scream franchise, right? The other one, the lady, what's she called? Neve Campbell, who plays Sydney. Now, she didn't return this time because of a contractual thing, which is, I don't know, that was, what did Gail say? She said she's having
she's taken her husband and kids somewhere safe.
Yeah, that was it. Until they can renew the contract properly, and then she'll be back. So we've also got Melissa Barrera as Sam Carpenter. She returns. The best thing about these two movies are the Carpenter sisters.
Mm.
Like, I thought they were really good in the last one, even though they were sidelined quite a bit. But in this one, they're up front and center all the time. And I like both of them. And I think they add something. And the end of the movie clearly sets it up. Well, it doesn't set anything up, does it?
Not really.
We've still got people. So they could make one, they might not, they might, I don't know. It doesn't, I thought they were going to set something up, but it doesn't, does it? Apart from when she drops the mask on the floor.
Yep.
Maybe that sets something up. I don't know. What do you think of those two?
They're good. They are the best part of the movie, yes. Best thing about the whole movie.
Returning is Hayden Panettiere as Kirby Reed. Now, if you've seen Scream 4, she's a beloved character from Scream 4.
Oh, is she?
Yeah. Sid Todd doesn't even remember her.
I don't.
You remember her as the cheerleader in Heroes, right?
Correct.
So she's beloved, and fans were like, why is Hayden not coming back? Why is she not coming back? Well, she's back in this one. She's okay. I don't think she has a lot to do, apart from be her, right?
She's kind of like intense because she's now FBI and she's dealt with the trauma of having been stabbed in another one of the movies.
She's a red herring. Again.
She wasn't really.
For a few seconds.
Maybe if you weren't really tuned in like some of us were.
Yeah. But that's what I'm talking about, being exhausted, because like, is it this person? Is it that? Just settle on a person and let's be over. And finally, I put down Samara Weaving because I really like Samara Weaving. She plays Laura Crane. She's on the poster. Don't go into this movie thinking it's a Samara Weaving movie, because it's not.
It really is not.
She's basically the Drew Barrymore character from the first one. So, 5 minutes?
Yeah, I would say right at.
Yeah, so Samara is there, but just for a few minutes. Matt and Tyler are the directors of this. They directed Ready or Not, talking of Samara Weaving. It's awesome, that movie. It's really gruesome and really goes there. You remember it? The bride in the house. They also directed Scream 5 and VHS, some segments on that. So what do you think of these directors?
I think it's very functional.
They're kind of like, they're trying to be cool.
Yes.
You can feel that, can't you? Like everything's trying to be cool. I do think they do stick to the Scream template. Is that a good thing?
Yes.
If you didn't, it wouldn't be Scream. Right?
Exactly. I don't want somebody to come in like the dude who had Luke Skywalker being a dickhead and just decide to, like, you know, wrap it up with like, you idiots, I'm not going to do anything that goes along with any of this. I mean, I don't like that because that's also lazy. And if you want to tell a different story, write a different story, right?
Yes.
It's also like, did they really I want to know who vetted this story. Did the directors not at some point go like, is this
lame?
I don't think it's lame. I think it's not negative. It's neutral.
Yeah.
Think about it. It's not negative.
For a movie full of like stabbing and backstabbing and, confusion. Mystery.
Yeah.
It's a lot of smoke and arrows. Is that what you call it? Smoke and arrows? That's not it.
Smoke and mirrors?
Smoke and mirrors. And arrows as well. It's a lot of that. I mean, it looks good. It sounds good. It's functional as far as a Scream movie goes. Do you feel, you might be in the same boat as me, by Wednesday afternoon, and this is Saturday, I won't know what happened in this movie. It'll have just dripped out of my head completely.
Interesting. Dripped out of your head. I catch what you're throwing.
Because Scream 5 also did, because I had to watch a recap today, and I was like, oh, that movie. It totally gone, until I saw Jack Quaid, and then I was like, oh yeah, that one. I remember. So, IMDb reviews, what are those?
Those are reviews on a website called imdb.com. And you like the 1 star because they're going to say things like, this is the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. Waste of time. This movie never should have been made. Blah, blah, blah. I disagree with that, by the way. I think you should make every movie you want to make. And whether we like it or not is really just part of the fun.
I do feel like some people on here are not going to like it, for sure.
Well, yeah.
All right, number 1 says, terrible. Scream 6 was terrible. Scream 5 was okay. You have all these people getting stabbed like 20 times with their mouths open and just knives being twisted, and then they walk away like nothing happened. There's no surprises at all. It's supposed to be in New York City, but all they showed was a set and some apartments. You clearly know who the killers are, and it was all new characters, just like Scream 5. That's not true. I can see why Neve Campbell didn't want to be in this movie. Just stop this franchise. It is wrong. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's wrong, but,
Second guy says, this film sucked. I hoped everybody would die. Multiple stab wounds and people just walk away. No problem if you're the main character. It literally makes me mad with the stupidity of everybody. I've got 270 characters left to be able to post this review, but I can't think of anything to put in it.
Charming.
And the third person says, worst movie of the year.
Worst movie of the year. It's a favorite. Absolutely
pathetic. This can easily be worst movie I have seen in the year. It was slow, boring, and lifeless. Scream 6 movie, the movie is more streamlined and political. It's not as satirical. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
That was a really good review. I like that one.
And they're right. It's not satirical anymore. Like, hey, we acknowledge that you like horror movies, and now we're going to do a horror movie in honor of the horror movies that you like. It's not that anymore. You gotta catch what I'm throwing?
It isn't that, but what is it?
Good point. It's just the franchise.
I mean, at least they do poke fun at what it is.
True. And so is that the satire? I don't know.
I mean, it is. Extras, we did not see any because we watched the streaming version. Let's give Scream 6 a score. You know what? Scream 6, it can have a 6 out of 10 from me.
I think 6 is fair.
Did we give Scream 5 5? Probably did. No, I think Scream 5's actually slightly better than this one. I would give that one a 7. I don't know what I give it, but...
Do you not listen to your own podcast?
I'm giving this one a 6. Yeah, 6 is all round. So thank you to Paramount. Next week, we're going to look at a cool movie, Sid Talk.
Okay.
It's called Evil Dead Rise.
Is it cool, though?
If there's any horror movie franchise that gets me excited, it's Evil Dead.
Correct.
I'll be there, day 1, Evil Dead Rise. Movie recommendations? I gave you the Evil Dead on my movie recommendations this week because I was thinking, is there a horror film I would have rather watched this afternoon? Yeah, there is. Evil Dead and The Exorcist. I would have watched that as a double bill and then not watch this one.
And which order would you watch them in?
Oh.
Because, one begets the other.
I think I'd watch Exorcist first and then Evil Dead next. Because Evil Dead is much more action.
Right.
And then, I would do the more slow-paced thing and then do the action one after. That's my reasoning behind it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because The Exorcist is a slow-paced 70s style movie.
True.
It does get bananas at some points.
So you need to pick up the pace a little after you've seen it. You need a little bit of relaxation.
Yeah.
With the Deadite.
Yeah.
Got it.
So what are your recommendations?
Our recommendations are going back to starting with the early 2000s, but we're now up to 2011 and it's all science fiction all year long. 2023 is the year of science fiction. Recommendations. not based on quality, just based on the fact that I've seen them. So, Hell is the first one.
Oh, just called Hell.
I don't know if I copied that right. Let me see.
Is that
Hell, 2011.
I don't know it.
I haven't looked up to see what that is, but it's from 2011. It would be science fiction. I Am Number 4.
I do remember that. We reviewed it. Yep.
In Time. I'm not
fully
fond of
like
it.
that movie, do you?
I don't, because I think it's really fucking creepy. There's your F word for the day.
If you look at it as in a creepy way, is it when
Like
you're
if
watching it, it's a romantic comedy, right?
Ew.
But then it turns into something more than
Yeah, a guy goes back in time over and over and over and over and over and manipulates a woman into loving him. Now, some could say that's what Groundhog Day guy did.
Yeah, exactly. He did that.
So yeah, it's creepy. But then he kind of gave up. Bill Murray, remember his character? He kind of had given up. He was just going
He gave
through
up
the
on
motions.
everything at some point, didn't he?
Right. So he was just going through the motions at that point. And then lo and behold, that was the day that she dug him, when he let go of trying to manipulate her. But at that point, he had already done it. So yeah, it's creepy too. So then we have Rise of the Planet of the Apes. I love Planet of the Apes. One of my favorite franchises ever of all time.
Is that one of the new ones with Andy Serkis? Yeah.
Well, it's 2011. So
they're all very good, yeah.
And Source Code, which is not great.
Source Code was Jake Gyllenhaal?
I believe so.
I think it was all right, actually.
I think you might have liked it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Sid Talk.
No
Hey,
problem.
Scully stuff. This week, I've been playing a game that really sucks. It was awful. Terrible. It doesn't just suck because it's a game about vampires. That wasn't the joke. It is a game about vampires, but it's also a terrible game. I was looking forward to this game. It came out on Tuesday. I played it for maybe 2 hours, and then I literally turned it off and deleted it from my hard drive.
Dang,
that's how bad I
that is unusual.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not coming back to this. I've seen enough. I'm done. It's the team that make it, they're called Arcane, and they made some really awesome games that I loved. Dishonored is one of them, and Deathloop is another one. And their games are usually so cool, and they're good, cool ideas, different from everybody else's games. This game, Redfall, the story is really vague. You have to pick things up and read them to try and get the story. And if you miss something, then you miss some of the story. It's weird. So you're trapped in this little village called Redfall. The village has been taken over by vampires. You're like a dude or a woman. You can choose who you want to be at the beginning. And you're with like a crew of 4 people. And you've got to clean up the town of Redfall, basically. So there's vampire nests. There's people there who are like shooting back at you because they're like on the side of the vampires, military and stuff. And vampires come at you. You shoot them. The missions are really like, hey, why don't you go and shoot 4 vampires? Okay. Shoot 4 vampires, come back. Here's a gun. Thank you for shooting the 4 vampires. Okay, what do I do next? Well, next we want you to shoot 8 vampires over there. It's like that. And it's
Gotcha.
I felt like it was just treading, like it never got interesting. After I'd shot a bunch of vampires like it told me to, they said, oh, look, some helicopters crashed over there. Maybe we can get like some supplies from the helicopters. Do you want to go and do that? And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm the only person who does anything here. I'll go and do that. So go to the helicopters. Guess what I have to do when I get to the helicopters?
Kill vampires.
Kill some vampires, yeah. I think it was 12 vampires. So I was like, okay, I'm getting to see what's going on here. We're going to be given a thing to do. We have to go and do it. Come back and get a really shitty like reward for it. Something that's not even that much better than what I've got. So then I was like, I think I'm done. Delete.
That is very unusual.
Yeah, really unusual. And I was looking forward to it. So that's Redfall. It sucked. I mean, and that wasn't a pun. It also is a pun, but it's not a pun. Sid Talk, what's for dinner?
Pasta.
Pasta?
Just some pasta. Yeah.
Very good. And what's your advice?
My advice isn't really advice. It's just be mindful that when there comes a time when there is a crisis or someone needs some help or, some support, that you find the balance of how you do that. So I think a lot of what people do is they inject their own needs onto the person in need. So the person in need could be broke or have lost a family member or be ill or be challenged to do anything, like something, just house burned down, whatever it is, right? And let's say you're the kind of person who can't even imagine having to cope with any of that ever, ever, ever. And it just absolutely rips your heart out and you're completely devastated. And so you go and you suffocate that person with constant overbearing. I'll do this. I'll do this. What can I do? What can I do? Just too much, like too much. Because another person standing off to the side is observing and seeing the person in need, throwing out the signals, right? Seeing the signs on the person in need that are saying, please don't suffocate me. Please, these are my boundaries and you're crossing them, right? And then there's the problem of also not noticing the cues and completely ignoring someone's being in need or not acknowledging in any way, shape, or form, or maybe not even picking up on it because, well, I'm fine, so everyone else is fine, right? So
yeah,
it's a very delicate balance because sometimes you want to do the dive in and do all the stuff because you think that's what you would want. And there are times when, yes, a person could be so devastated or broken that they need multiple people maybe around to help pick up the pieces and fill in all the gaps and whatnot. But most of the time, if you really, really study and take a step back and think, this isn't about me wanting to be the hero or me wanting to help or me wanting to make sure that you know that I want to help or me wanting to make sure that everyone else knows that I want to help. Because I think that's what's going on a lot. So that you're remembered as the person who's very, 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 very helpful. But in fact, I don't think that's always helpful. And I'm more of a stand back person, like either thing. I'm either all in or I'm medium or I'm back off. So just read the signs and I'm sure I get them wrong. And a lot of times I inject my own thing because I'm like, well, I wouldn't want somebody suffocating me. So I'm just going to stand back. Well, that's also not balanced, right?
Right.
Because I'm not tuned into what that person needs. And could be perceived as being like heartless or distant, and it's fair because I've been told that before. But I just feel like a lot of times we're not trained or taught, and no one mentions it, that everyone doesn't need the same kind of assist, no matter how horrible the situation is. Still try to figure out what they need and not just what you need to give.
Oh yes, I get you.
Got it?
Yeah.
That's the best words I could find there at the end.
All right, thank you, Sid Talk.
Thank you.
ascully.com is the website you can get this podcast from. Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, we're both on there, Sid Talk and Ascully. You can also get the podcast itself from Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, YouTube. We're everywhere where podcasts are available. Email feedback to me, ascully@ascully.com. Do not email Sid Talk. She doesn't want any of your emails or anything because she is heartless.
I'm heartless. I'm okay. I'm okay with that.
And lastly, stay classy, Mr. Ghostface Killer. I'm sure he'll be back. He'll be back this time next year, no doubt.
Is it classy, though? That's the real question.
That is the question.
And I'm going to say think for yourself, or someone will do it for you.